What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades. Today, I'm very happy to be featuring an excellent blade made in America. What we've got here is the Hogue manufactured Ritter RSK MK1-G2. This is the full-size version. It is also an exclusive of KnifeWorks.com in CPM Magnacut for your blade steel and solid carbon fiber for your handle scales. Now, before we get deep into the review on this knife, I want to talk a little bit about Doug Ritter, who is basically the designer of this knife. And a little bit of what Doug Ritter does for our community. Now, Doug is an internationally recognized survival equipment and techniques expert. He's also the founder, publisher, and editor of Equipped to Survive. Consider that just an information database on that equipment and techniques. Most importantly, Doug is the founder and chairman of Knife Rights. Knife Rights is the organization for the knife enthusiast, as far as an organization to stand for the rights of knife enthusiasts, much like the GOA stands for the rights of firearm enthusiasts within the United States. I am actually a direct beneficiary of Knife Rights here in the state of Tennessee in, I think, 2009, 2010, if I recall correctly. Knife Rights came into our state and fought against all the antiquated and crap knife laws that we had in this state, and they won. Let me tell you what they did for us. We can carry any knife, any size, automatic or manual, concealed or in the open within the state of Tennessee, period. Also, they did a preemption which stops any local jurisdiction from enacting any tougher or more restrictive knife laws beyond what the state says is the law. That is fantastic. As far as knife enthusiasts, we cannot pay this organization back fully for this. And I'm going to tell you right now, I will put the information down in the pinned comment in the comment section. Go to their website, kniferights.org, and check them out. They deserve your support. This year, 2022, they have been in Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Hampshire, Louisiana, Ohio, and many more places fighting against restrictive knife carry laws. And they win over and over. They're very good at what they do. Again, check them out. They deserve our support. Now, let's go ahead here and take a look at the packaging for this knife. It's the standard Hogue Knives box. Here is your label for this model, even though that does not matter because they are sold out. It wasn't exclusive. There was only 2 drops of it, and I don't think it's going to be made again. But if you're looking on the secondary market, this is what you're looking for. Inside that box, you will find an embroidered, very nice zipper pouch. Also in the box is a little fold out that's got warranty information, all of that jazz, and a Hogue Knives sticker. Very decent for the price point. And what price point was that, Baz, on that knife that I can no longer buy, so it really shouldn't matter? Very reasonable, actually. $209.95. $209.95 for a knife like this, American made. I thought was a very good price point, and I jumped all over that. And I'm very happy with it, even though I had to wait 2 months on this knife due to a shortness or a shortage of CPM Magnacut. This steel is super hot right now, and everybody, all the knife manufacturers are trying to get a hold of as much of it as they can so they can get their knives out there and they can sort of ride on the coattails of the buzz around this steel. We will talk about the steel a little more. Now, let's go ahead and knock out the specs on this knife. This is the full-size RSK. This is the MK1-G2, and you're looking at about just shy of 3.5 inches on your blade length. That's about 8.5 centimeters. Blade stock thickness, 127 thousandths of an inch, or 3.2 millimeters. Your blade width, a little over 1.25 inches, or 32 millimeters. Your handle length, 4 3/4 of an inch, or 12 centimeters. Handle thickness, 630 thousandths of an inch, or 16 millimeters. Handle width, 1.3 inches, or 33 millimeters. The closed width is 1.5 inches, or 38 millimeters. Overall length, 8 1/4 inches, or slightly less than 21 centimeters. Stop pin diameter, very beefy at 185 thousandths of an inch, or 4.7 millimeters. Behind edge thickness on the edge bevel is 18 thousandths of an inch, or 0.47 millimeters. Handle to blade ratio, an efficient 74%, and your weight, an easy to carry, in my opinion, 4.13 ounces, or 117 grams. So this is basically, it's a full-size RSK MK1-G2, just an exclusive in these materials. Let's talk a little bit about Magnacut, and that's all I'm going to talk about, is just a little bit. This is my first knife with Magnacut. I have researched this steel, but I do not know any more about it right now than what I have researched. Now, when I say research, I didn't go to other YouTube channels. I didn't go to any website other than the man that created this steel, Larrin Thomas from KnifeSteelNerds.com. And he explains much better than I ever could what this steel is about. There is an article, a very in-depth article about the development, the characteristics, the heat treat recipe for this, the results, everything in this article that Larrin Thomas has written. I will additionally put a link for that in that pinned comment section. If you really want to know about CPM Magnacut, you need to go to that link and read that article. It's a long article and it's technical in places, but not so much that the layman can't get the general gist of this steel. And what it is basically a very modern stainless tool steel that was designed to have a high hardenability. You will typically see this used in the 62 to 65 Rockwell C range. Hogue is saying that their heat treat with cryo treatment is putting this at 63, 64 Rockwell. That is pretty high for any common steel, stainless steel, period. That's a high Rockwell. You typically at higher Rockwells see lower toughness levels in steel. It's sort of a balancing act. But there was some alloying choices and creative techniques used in this steel to manipulate the grain structure and carbide formation. And what you get out of this steel is, across the board, it is very good. It has very good edge retention or wear resistance. It has very good toughness or impact resistance, and it has very good corrosion resistance. It gets past that sort of balancing act of hardness to toughness through the technical aspect of the alloying I'm not going to explain here, but it seems very solid as far as the science goes to me. Initial out in the real world sort of reviews of the steel are finding very high performance levels. It is, like most steels, very dependent on the heat treat recipe and how well it is done. But I have looked at that recipe. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's got a wide temperature range as far as the initial hardening soak at temperature. You're basically going to do your soak at that 2000 to 2200 degree level. And then you've got an option of going straight from the soak. They do a plate quench on it. Then you've got the option of whether you're going to do a cryo treatment on it or go straight to tempering to draw back the hardness to a usable level. Hogue is doing the cryo treatment, and what Mr. Thomas says is that cryo treatment is usually good for about a point and a half on the Rockwell scale to get it up close to that sort of 63, 64, 65 Rockwell C level. So I expect to see extended edge retention, wear resistance with this steel. Now, of course, I don't chop or anything with folding knives, so I don't expect to see any toughness issues at all in just general cutting use. And according to, what the hell was that? According to Mr. Thomas, the corrosion resistance is fabulous on that, and we will see over time through use with this steel what it does. So in the handle material, you are looking at solid slabs of carbon fiber, and they are thick slabs. Now this is radially machined, and it is machined down at each end, so you're three-dimensional in both directions on this handle. I have not disassembled this knife, and I'll tell you why later. I have not disassembled it, but with my eyeball calipers, I am thinking these scales started out 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm pretty sure of that. And then they were machined down. Then internally, you see here, you've got partial internal liners that your locking mechanism is mounted in. But even with those partial liners, it only come out to about right here from the pivot. This knife is so freaking incredibly stiff and solid feeling. You really, really get one of the prime characteristics of using carbon fiber. It is extremely stiff and strong for its weight. And when you get up in a scale thickness like this, even with some machined out of the inside for those partial liners, it is very, very stiff. There is no feel of give in the hand. Your small parts are all stainless. Your screws are all T8. It is all blackened out. Everything is blackened out hardware-wise except for the liners. And I'm sure that's a choice because a coating on the liners would affect the feel, I think, of the what they're calling the Able lock, which is an improved axis lock. Everything is finished pretty evenly as far as that goes. You know, stamped steel deep carry pocket clip here. You've got 3 standoffs here instead of a backspacer. That's about it as far as material goes. Oh, and it is on bushings. It is not on bearings. It is on phosphor bronze bushings. Let's see if we can get a glimpse of the... You might be able to see down there and see a little glimpse of those phosphor bronze bushings, and it is very smooth on those bushings. So let's talk about fit and finish. It is everything that I would expect out of a $210 American-made knife. Let's go up here to the blade. Your bevels are even. We can take a look at that plunge grind. It is a very simple blade profile and a very simple grind profile on this. You've got this high flat grind. It is not a full flat grind, but it is very high. And on this stock thickness of, what did I say it was, 127 thousandths of an inch or 3.2 millimeters, that does give you a fairly behind the edge, a fairly thin behind the edge measurement on this. And you can take a look at this edge bevel here. That is a fairly wide bevel. It's telling me that that is a fairly thin angle for that edge bevel. It is a very, very good cutter, in my opinion, on the slicey side of cutting, but it's got enough thickness behind the edge to add to the toughness and impact resistance of that edge to support the edge. The finish is in a stone wash. It is fairly subdued. It is even. All the machining is good on this. It's not a super fancy looking blade with swedges and compound grinds and all that, but this knife was designed as a survival companion knife, not as pocket jewelry. You do see Doug's marking here, the MC for Magnacut. On the back side here, you've got the Hogue marking USA, and that is pretty much it as far as billboarding on the blade goes. It is on a thumb stud opening system, and it is the sort of three-wing thumb studs there. Pretty neat, and that mirrors the design of the caps on the able lock or axis lock. Is, it's a modified axis lock is what the able lock is. So fit and finish on the blade, including very good jimping. This knife overall, let's just say that, is very textured. This is like old school ribbed condoms, except it's textured for your pleasure. Forget that gal. The jimping on the handle on the inset liner, the portion that is exposed, and on the blade is nice and coarse. It works very well. It's cut very well. It is a huge area under the thumb, a much bigger area than the pad of my thumb. I'm going to press my thumb into this jimping a little bit, and then we'll take a look at that. You can see it is nicely deep and defined, and there is plenty of it. Let's go into the handle as far as fit and finish, because we got a lot to talk about here. There's a ton of machining on this. The machining is pivot centric. It is a starburst pattern coming straight out from the pivot. And then there is a second set of machining in a radial pattern in this center section right here. And you can sort of see where that area is. And this starburst pattern moving laterally and then this crossing it perpendicularly, that gives you sort of a, like the checkering on the stock of a rifle sort of feel in this center section. Now, I want to see if I can show you how deep this machining is here. It's very hard with the carbon fiber. This is not last pass machining sort of texture. This is a purposeful, deep texturing. It's deep, guys. This knife is highly textured in the handle. Not only are both show surfaces highly textured, you've got your good amount of very workable jimping here. You've got the repeat of that jimping at the butt end in this carbon fiber. It works just as good. Both sides are fully textured. It feels in the hand, I mean, I can feel texturing everywhere. This knife is not going to slip out of your hand. I expect the standard G10 models to be exactly the same as this. I have seen some slight complaints that this may be a little too coarse. I disagree with that, but I work with my hands. I have calluses on my hands, and I appreciate this texturing in a real world use. That said, it's pretty heavily textured, guys. I do not think that I could work with this knife for hours at a time without hot spotting somewhere. And that's the trade-off of texturing. There is, just like in the blade steel, there is a balancing within characteristics on texturing. You want it to be textured enough to be grippy, but not so textured that it causes hot spots or blistering under prolonged use. This is fairly coarse, and I love it. Even though I say that I don't think I could work for hours with this without hot spotting, that's okay, because if I'm going to work hours with a knife, it'll be with a fixed blade knife. It won't be with a folder. So I think fit and finish overall on this knife is pretty much about perfect, exactly what I would hope for from over $200 American-made knife. Take a look at this. You got some nice inserts to swap that ambidextrous pocket clip. And the pocket clip works very well. It's got a sort of a funny profile. There's all these curves on the profile. It just looks sort of funny to me. But it's okay, it works fine. Some people might complain, these button head screws, they think, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to get that into my pocket material. But I've not had any issue with it, and I wear tactical pants or shorts every day of my life. And the pocket has 3 or 4 layers. It has a reinforced area to clip knives onto your pocket. I have 0 issues with that. I tried this pocket clip with common denim. 0 issues with that. It's got a fairly low tip, but it's not too awful low. Yeah, it works pretty good to me. It's a 2-screw mount, but there is a 3rd screw hole under there, just like on the front. So you can use some common 3-screw mount aftermarket pocket clips. There's just all kinds of that crap out there. I thought maybe this would be really nice to get like a fully machined carbon fiber pocket clip and put on, and I may look into that, see if I can't find anything like that. If any of you guys know, you can point me in a direction. I would appreciate that. So there's your fit and finish on it. Action wise, it's super smooth bushing sort of build, easily flickable and playable and fidgety and all of that. I suppose you could spidey flick this, but I can't do it. And the reason is I have short, medium length fingers, and to grip the knife the way I need to do that spidey flick, I'm touching on, okay, there I go. I'm touching on this lock bar here, and that gets in the way a lot of times, and that's just in my hands. And I'm not a big spidey flicker anyway, you know, because I don't pick my nose all the time, and we all know spidey flickers are nose pickers. So the action is very smooth bushings. It came out of the box. It felt clean. It felt smooth. It felt tight. There was no play anywhere in the pivot, but it still had very smooth action. It was oiled from the factory. It wasn't too wet or too dry. There's no detent ball to worry about because the spring pressure along with the lock bar riding across the whatever it is. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. Tang. It's not only to drink, the tang of the blade, the way it's shaped. Oh my God, guys. It works in a camming action. As it rolls around here, it cams over a high point, and then that spring pressure on the lock bar sucks that knife up and works as your detent around that blade tang. Oh my God, what an idiot. So action is really, really good, guys. Centering, absolutely perfect. I have, like I say, I have not disassembled this knife. I am not going to. Everything about the action, the lockup, and the centering on this knife is perfect. And it's the first knife really that I've ever gotten with this type of lock where it was. I have owned 10 or 12 Benchmade knives with axis locks. Every one of them had play in it. Every one. When I worked at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, I handled hundreds of those knives. I could not stand the axis lock. This able lock, which is an improved version, some changes have been made in geometry, some changes have been made in finishing for smoother action. This one came out of the box absolutely, I mean, freaking absolutely rock solid in every direction and just as smooth. Look at that, so smooth I'm getting bounced back off of the stop pin. That's fantastic, guys. Fantastic when you get a knife and you are pleasantly surprised by an aspect of it. And any knife that I get that has got this type of lock on it that doesn't have play, I am pleasantly surprised. So far, I'm really into this Hogue Knives able lock. Let's see. Let's go on to ergos and utility and get this closed out. We'll start up here on the blade. Drop point, single grind, high flat grind, nice acute tip, very well sharpened, very pokey, instantly pierces, guys, instantly. A nice wide bevel on that edge grind there, that edge bevel, and this thing is pretty doggone slicey. Of course, drop point design, very utilitarian. Drop point blades are some of the most utilitarian profiled blades out there. You've got plenty of straight edge for fine work. You've got plenty of belly here for sort of slashy, slicey type of work. You got a nice fine tip for poking and piercing, and that tip falls very much in the center line of the knife. So in hand, it's easy to direct the cutting edge and the tip. You can feel where that is without having to look at it to guide it. So very good there on the utilitarian use of this blade. Doug Ritter has talked often about this blade design that he goes with on his knives, and it is utilitarian. It's not the prettiest blade profile or grind. It's sort of plain, but the beauty of it is in how usable it is in the real world. And I hope that the Magnacut really brings that out with some extended, tough performance. Handle shape is the same basic overall design that we got from the Griptilian. It is modified here with a shallow choil. To me, it is very ergonomic, very comfortable, easy to hold on to, comfortable to hold on to. Large size hands with medium length chunky fingers. I have got plenty of room on the 4 3/4 inch handle length. This knife reminds me, as far as size, it is very close to what a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 is. Maybe slightly better on the handle to blade balance there at 74%. I think that the Paramilitary 2 comes in about 70%, if I recall. But it's super duper ergonomic. You've got curves where curves need to be, because look at my hand. Do you see any flat, straight surfaces? This has got to go in here. It's got to be held. This drop right here is very important up under the heel of your hand. You don't want a big chunk of stuff to be up in the heel of your hand, the meat of your hand. So that drop is important. This choil, just enough. Just enough. It's not tactical, but it is utilitarian, and that's what this knife is. It's not a tactical knife. It's a utilitarian survival utility companion. So I think ergonomics in the handle, I mean, like I say, you've got radiused machining on this. You can see how deep this machine pattern is. I love that shit. I love stuff like that. It just tickles me. I'm like a little girl. Yeah. Utilitarian, comfortable, hand feeling, feels like a real tool. That pivot and the lockup is super solid, guys. Yeah. super smooth with no play at all, really centered, quality materials. You know, I'm not completely sold on the Magnacut yet. Like I say, I don't have any experience with it. Real world use will reveal to Bass-on blades how good it really is. But on paper, and from what Mr. Thomas is saying and what they're getting out of their testing, it looks to be pretty doggone good. And I think that the techniques that were used in order to manipulate grain structure, hardenability, carbide formation, I think those techniques are going to sweep across the knife industry and give the developers a little different look at how they do steels. I think we're getting ready to go into a new generation of steel performance, and I think a lot of that will hinge on this new way of looking at alloying steels that Larry Thomas has brought into this. Again, all the information I talked about as far as knife rights, as far as knife steel nerds, will be in the pinned comment in the comment section. I very much think you should go check that out. It will give you all the information you need on this steel, on the organization Knife Rights, and take a look at the Hogue produced product. I've handled quite a few Hogue knives over the years, and I have been pretty pleased with them. This is a fabulous design. Hogue is doing a good job on their manufacturing. The standard model in G10 for the handle scales is in 20 CV for your blade steel, and that is a premium blade steel. I mean, you got a choice between premium blade steels. They don't have any junk blade steels, guys. Hogue is pretty much using 20 CV across the board with these knives for their base steel, and that's fantastic. That is a fantastic steel. I am going to not only recommend this knife, I'm going to highly recommend it. Of course, you'll have to pick these up on the secondary market. I do not think they'll do another run, but they have a lot of killer G10 models in the 20 CV. They've got one in a purple G Mascus in a stonewash blade that I am looking super duper close at. I really love that purple G Mascus. I love the 20 CV steel, and I love this design. So there you go, guys. The Hogue produced Ritter RSK MK1-G2, the KnifeWorks exclusive in CPM Magnacut and carbon fiber. Get it if you can on the secondary market. Wait till the hype dies down and get a better price on it is the only advice I can give. And check out the normal versions of this blade. It is a superior design for real world use. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch one of my videos. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you again.